Hi, welcome to Sunder Sisterhood. I'm Carrie, and this is a YouTube channel for the single and childless, not by choice person. Our video today is a part of our Are These Feelings Normal series. We have talked about envy, bitterness, anger, and today we're talking about sadness. Is feeling sadness a normal part of grieving, being single, and or childless, not by choice? Shocker? Yes, it is. It's extremely normal. In fact, it's important that you allow yourself to feel this sadness because, as we say in the therapy world, the only way is through. So, sadness related to being childless, not by choice, is tricky because it often happens in isolation, or it happens in a way in which those of us around us don't always know that we're experiencing it, especially if your childlessness is due to something like being single or by circumstance. If you are childless due to infertility, sometimes people understand that you're going through infertility treatment, for example, and so they understand that this is a real stress point in your life. Now, it doesn't mean that they understand that infertility doesn't always work, and it doesn't mean that they understand how to support you in that. So, I'm not saying one's better than the other, and oftentimes, if you are childless, not by choice, your sadness is something that other people aren't recognizing is happening. And if you do try and say it out loud, or you do try and express it, then sometimes we're met with things that feel less than supportive, right? People try and tell us not to give up. People try and tell us that, oh, it will happen. They try and problem solve, all of these things that ultimately don't end up being very helpful, which then kind of creates a scenario where we're going to continue to stuff it. The other thing, particularly if you're childless due to circumstance, is sometimes people assume that if you are single and childless, not by choice, they assume you don't have kids because you didn't want them. It doesn't occur to them that you don't have kids even though you wanted them. And the idea that, well, you can just go out and have a kid on your own, I mean, that's a simple thing to say, but not a simple thing to do. So again, sometimes people don't even bring it up or ask about it. Or if we do share that we're feeling some sadness around it, they're surprised because they assume we didn't want kids. The sadness can stay in our heads. And so when we drop some of those breadcrumbs and we don't get the responses that we'd like, again, problem solving or just really bizarre, blurty, quite frankly, idiotic responses, it almost reinforces the idea that this isn't something that we should talk about, right? Instead of getting, oh, I'm so sorry that's happening to you, you get a lot of just, it's very clear that people are not used to having this conversation, right? Now, being childless and being single and childless is also something that's very contrary to most societies. I can't think of a culture or society where that is more the streamline, but I don't want to assume that I know everything about every culture or society in the world. And because it's contrary, right, the messages that were sent also feed into sadness. And these are generally subtle messages as well. It's not a matter of we're asked, oh, are you going to have children? It's not an if, but it's a when. It's an assumption. And then if you don't have it or it's not happening for you, it can feel like you're some kind of pariah or like social deviant, right? And you're none of those things. But sometimes that self-talk gets stuck in our head. And again, it can just latch onto the sadness around it. One of the things in the therapy world that I talk with therapists about is, this is a very intense grief. And you go on a lot of the therapist directories and it's not even an option for somebody to kind of specialize in something like this. And I use that as an example to say that it's not something that is considered. We talk about grief in other forms, but and we also talk about the idea that it's helpful to see somebody who specializes for different circumstances that run counter to culture. And for childlessness, it isn't there yet. And when you don't see yourself represented or your lifestyle represented, again, that can feel very, very sad, because it can feel like you're missing out on something, that other people are able to get this. Sometimes, I used to sort of say to myself, God, everybody else can make this happen for themselves. How come this isn't happening for me? I feel very left out, isolated, alone, as if everybody else is kind of not only living this life that I can't relate to, but they're living the life that I want. So I see it everywhere that I am. Grief related to childlessness is a very real grief. And it's not only grieving a loss in the present, but it's also grieving like secondary losses related to friendships change and family holidays can change. It's also grieving the things that aren't going to happen in the future that you thought were going to happen. If you're a woman in particular, think about when people start talking to you about when you're going to be a mother. I mean, that is early stuff, right? That people talk about, when you have kids. Not if you have kids, but when you have kids. Grieving your reality and then grieving your dreams and what you dreamed your future is going to be is very, very difficult. And it's healthy to experience sadness in this. In fact, if you're not experiencing sadness related to this, then I question if you're detaching, disassociating, right? Now, it's also possible your brain just isn't letting you go there yet because you're managing some other things. But sadness is very much likely going to be a part of your grief process, and it's normal to do that. So knowing that it's likely going to be a part of your process and knowing that it's really, really difficult and sucks a lot, how can you manage it? So ways to manage the sadness. If you're feeling sad and you need to cry, then cry. That's a proportionate and reasonable response to the feeling of sadness. And it can also be really therapeutic as well. So if you feel like you need to cry, then do that. There's nothing weak about that. In fact, it's one of the healthier things that you can do. Also, consider writing. Maybe you want to journal and you just want to sort of spew it all out. Maybe you want to write a story. Maybe there's poems. Maybe you want to write a letter to your future self. Maybe you want to write a letter to those people that you feel like are not being supportive for you and are sort of kind of twisting the knife in and dredging up sadness versus being a soft place to land. Maybe you want to write a letter to the universe or God, if that's appropriate for you, and kind of tell and express how unfair you think things are or how upset you are that this is happening. Maybe you would like to do a creative pursuit, again, where you're maybe not using words, but you're painting or drawing your feelings in a way that helps you express those. Again, getting feelings that are inside outside is therapeutic and helpful, and oftentimes you'll need to do this more than once. So creating kind of a habit around this. The other thing that's talked about in the Childless Not by Choice community is a ritual or tradition. And we talk about this because in more traditional griefs, there are traditions and markers rituals that sort of mark the loss, right? Whether that's funerals or an obituary, or we light a candle on the anniversary. There's things that mark that this is a significant grief for somebody. And we don't always have that in the Childless, Not by Choice community. And so one of the things that this community is doing is there are people that are organizing virtual groups in order to give people a space to do that. So that's something to consider. Maybe you do that more privately or alone, but is there something you can do that kind of marks the loss, and that you're intentional about it, and that you give the loss the respect and the time that it deserves? Because again, this is a loss. The other thing to think about, and this is more of an ongoing long-term thing, is consider seeing a therapist. If you need some help finding a therapist in your area, you can always reach out to us. worldchildlessweek.net is a website that has resources. Tottenham Journal is another resource that has is another website that has resources around this too. So they are out there, and I'm happy to help you find that if you feel like it feels too overwhelming to start digging into that world. If you're experiencing sadness and you feel like you're getting stuck in it, one of the things when you're ready that I want to suggest to you is go back and listen to the suggestions that I gave, and then pick a date to start one of them. And if you choose writing or you choose a creative outlet, for example, do it for at least 15 minutes. If you start doing it and you do it for 2 minutes and you're like, this sucks, this isn't helpful, just commit for 15 minutes before you stop and try something else. Let me know what's worked for you in the comments below to help manage sadness. And one of the things that can be really helpful about you commenting below in the comments is that other people can see that and maybe they get some other ideas too. You never know who you're helping when you start engaging in community. So be on the lookout for, we have 2 more videos left in the Are These Feelings Normal series. And I will link the videos of the earlier videos of this series in the notes below. Subscribe to Sandra's Sisterhood for more videos that are geared toward the single and childless, not by choice person.